Is it possible to become a software engineer without a college degree? Yes, absolutely. And how do you actually become a software engineer? How do you build up that resume with or without a college degree and really garner that attention that it takes to get a big time job? When I say resume, I'm not talking about a traditional resume. I'm talking about what you need to build up to garner attention to get into the interview, and then what you need to have built up once you are inside the interview to prove your value enough to the company to get the job. We're not talking about traditional resumes and traditional recommendations, and actually recommendations, yes, resumes, no. We're talking specifically about, this sounds so cheesy, but it's what it is. It's a 4-step process. The first step is going to be to pick a niche and pick one that has good educational resources. The second one is to set up your LinkedIn profile appropriately, and so that recruiters will reach out to you and get you into the interview. The third step is going to be how to set up your GitHub account. That way you have proof of your value to show the actual software engineers interviewing you once you break in to that interview, thanks to your LinkedIn and the recruiters reaching out to you. And the fourth step is how do you get real world experience before you have any real world experience? And that step is going to be through freelancing, Upwork, and how to start and get a few quick freelance jobs to just put on all these things you're going to present to the potential company you're working for, that, hey, I have coding experience, I am educated, and I have real world experience. That's the 4 steps, and we're about to dive in to the first one, which is to get or choose a niche that has good education starting now. Number 1, pick your niche. Pick a niche. Software is so much like the medical field. You know, you don't have a cardiologist come in and give brain surgery, right? You don't have a neurologist go in and do open heart surgery. If you don't pick your niche, you will get lost in the ocean. There is not a single human being on this planet that can learn everything there is about software. So, what are some of the niches? Well, you've got cloud computing, you've got like Android development, you've got iOS development. Usually, sometimes you can get into Android and iOS. My niche, it's web development. It's web development, and it's not like WordPress web development or Drupal web development. It's full-on web application development. Now, once you pick your niche, you want to pick the right technology within that niche. Now, what do I mean by technology? Well, if you're into going like the cloud computing path, then pick either Azure or pick, Amazon Web Services, web cloud computing, choose Google Cloud, but pick one at first. Once you get more experience, you can kind of web out into the other niches that your niche is kind of attached to directly or indirectly. But at first, pick your niche. This is the most important step, because if you don't pick a niche, you're going to get lost in the ocean. You're going to drown under the tsunami. It'll be like being in the Bermuda Triangle. You can't survive if you don't pick your niche. So moving on from this point forward, we're going to go down my niche, which is web development. And I am going to recommend that you choose Laravel. I'm going to recommend you choose Laravel, and there's a very specific reason. It has the best educational resources. It's popular. It's very, very, very motivated by software engineers across the world as far as passion towards making it a better framework, and it straight up has the best educational resources, specifically Laracasts. Now, many are going to say you should go React because it's the most popular front-end framework. JavaScript is what I mean when I say front-end, and JavaScript, frankly, is the most popular software language in the world. Here's my problem with going and choosing React. Number one is that React, it does have very good documentation. It has very solid documentation. I'm not taking anything away from React because it is incredible. And if that is where you end up going, honestly, it's not a bad choice. But the reason I'm saying Laravel is because Laravel is the most popular backend framework in the world and has a bias towards the second most popular front-end framework in the world, which is Vue.js. React is number one, and it is far and away the most popular web application framework in the world. But Laravel and Laracasts is just, it's straight up, it's the best educational resource out there. Laracasts is, I just have to thank 𝘕𝘕𝘆𝘆 and Laracast so much for my education in software because they've done a lot. What I love about this is, yes, they're Jeffries, because he teaches 99% of these tutorials. His focus is Laravel, but notice that Laravel has 38 series on Laravel, 16 on PHP. What's cool about this, and Laravel is a PHP framework, but they have everything from PHP practitioner to object-oriented principles in PHP. And this is just, it's amazing. So you do have to have a little bit of PHP experience, but honestly, diving in and just learning directly from this after you know what a function and a variable is, that's what I recommend. And it's just amazing. And it just has the best full-on just software engineering education on the web. But also notice, be also in PHP Storm, 27 lessons on how to set up PHP Storm, 11 lessons on how to set up Sublime, Visual Studio, 18 lessons, Vim, 22 lessons. They cover design patterns, solid principles, even bits in PHP, 10 techniques for cleaner code. It's incredible. But then if you back out and you explore further, then you can see that they also have testing, and they have, learn Vue 2 step by step, 49 lessons on Vue. And this is a Laravel focused educational platform. And then they also do things like Laravel Mix. If you've heard of Laravel Mix, it's amazing. It's a wraparound Webpack, which is actually a very famous front end thing. But long story short, is Jeffrey Ways created Laravel Mix. So that's who you're learning from. You're learning from one of the best on the web. Jeffrey actually has a degree in music theory, so the audio is amazing. And yeah. So before I lose any other subscribers, I will end it there, and we will actually move on to the next step. Number 2, you got to build up the resume. So that was step number 1. That's how you get educated. That's how you educate yourself. You train the mind, how you become a good software engineer. Is you sit there and you learn from the best. But how do you build up the resume? And what is the purpose of building up a resume? Well, number 1 is to get into the door for the interview, right? You need to get into the door for the interview. The answer to that, which is step number 2, how do you build up your resume to get in the door? LinkedIn up here. Now, if you can see, I already have a couple messages. Haven't looked at these yet. Sounds like a plan. Hi, Zachary. Here, we'll just read these. And I'll have to write out those names. Thanks for accepting my email. Would you like to apply for the position? I don't remember what that position was. Marketing technology specialist, web designer with our direct client. Financial engines. Yeah, sure. Why not? So here's what that's going to look like. I'm going to say, thanks for reaching out. 𝙎𝘕𝘆𝘆𝘆? I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm sorry. I don't like messing up names. I feel like that's a big part of communicating. Would you have time for a call later today or tomorrow? And then thanks again for reaching out. All the best, Zachary Horton. And send. And I actually am in the process, just because of all this Corona stuff, I am actually looking for a job right now. So that was not anything I was expecting to send right there, but I figured why not? I mean, that's all it takes. But the big thing with LinkedIn is this, is LinkedIn is how you get in the door. So there's really 2 parts to nailing the interview. LinkedIn being how you get into the door and how you get the interview. The second part is obviously proving you can code. But you don't get the opportunity to prove you can code until you get the recruiters, like I just showed you, reaching out to you. And LinkedIn's how you do that. LinkedIn is where I get 90% of my job opportunities, and it's quite a bit, to the point where it can be exhausting. And I get that, I guess that's a good trade-off to have. So how do you actually get recruiters to reach out to you on LinkedIn? What do you do? How do you build up your LinkedIn profile? Well, first off, you want to build up, you want to fill in as much as you can on LinkedIn. To be honest, my About section kind of isn't great because I go more into my life philosophy. I've always kind of had this thing where I'd rather get attention and then prove my value later instead of proving my value at first. So that's kind of what this does. It goes into who I am, my life philosophy, why you want me on your team. I have been recommended by many recruiters that it would be better to put like Laravel, PHP, JavaScript, kind of what my title looks like: full stack software engineer, Laravel, Vue, AWS, PHP, reactivity, ORM, dependency injection containers, and really just list off more traditionally what I work with and who I am. So I do go against the common curve on my About section. So if you do end up going to my LinkedIn page and you see this, I will say that my About is not traditionally what is going to get the most attention. I feel like I'm to the point where I have enough attention where I'd rather garner I guess almost an emotional response to say, hey, this is a person, this is a human being. So don't necessarily use my About as a good template, but the rest of it's pretty good. So you want to add featured items. This is normally going to be GitHub. You can see I've got like my recommendations. I worked with Zach on the same project for almost a year at 𝑉MLY&R. He's really talented, detail-oriented, and creative, etc., etc. And then you can keep going, and you can see, I've got another recommendation, and just a few more. And then I have my LinkedIn featured, or my GitHub featured. I've got a few YouTube videos featured because they look better. This was actually my first recommendation and had almost zero to do with software. But I'm going to read this real quick because this is the type of stuff that you want to kind of get your initial recommendation letters, reference letters from. And it's a letter of recommendation, Zachary Horn. I worked with Mr. Horn for a year now. We partnered up on a test venture that turned out to be awesome. As a young man moving into the workforce, he is extremely competent and a jack of all trades. Zachary is great to work with on every level, very responsive, and works beyond the normal 8 to 12 days. 8 to 12 hour days some of us are used to working. He alone is responsible for our web development, server upkeep, SEO, and internet marketing. Zachary has sent over 1,000 unique leads our way and continues to do so for both of my businesses. I am grateful and look forward to seeing his success. David Fothergill. And I'll keep that up there because David, he's always looking for leads. So if anybody contacts him, make it about semi-truck leads or houses. If you want a house, you can hit up David Fothergill at the information right there. He can be your loan officer. So that's the recommendation stuff. But how do you really set yourself up to get those recommendations and reference letters? That will be the next step. The step after that is going to be the GitHub, and that is once you're in the door, GitHub is what you show to the other software engineers. But the big thing with LinkedIn is once you have all of this stuff filled out to an extent, and it does not have to be nearly as detailed as this, but you want to fill in every section with something. The biggest, most important section is this: skills and endorsements. Skills and endorsements. So how do you know what skills to put? Well, here's the big catch-22 of LinkedIn. I'm going to go here. I'm on the job section. So to get to the job section, you can go here, and I am going to go to a job that I might apply for. And I don't really apply for jobs anymore just because, everybody reaches out. But this is a job where if I was the one applying instead of recruiters reaching out, this is what I would possibly apply for. Maybe. I haven't looked at it too closely, to be honest. But it has some of the stuff on there. So it has all of this. It has, et cetera, et cetera. We obviously read it, make sure it's somewhere you want to be. But the important part is you want to go to the job description's skills, the skills, and ignore the level of education, bachelor's degree. Every single job I've had, you're supposed to have a bachelor's degree. I don't. I dropped out of college after 28 days. Don't have a bachelor's degree. Do not let the fact that it says you need a degree intimidate you. It doesn't matter. Okay, now that rant's over. You want to get the skills, and what you want to do is you want to copy the skills for a job that you found verbatim from the job resume, and then you want to go back to your LinkedIn resume or your LinkedIn profile, and you want to add the skills verbatim. And so you just go down to, again, skills and endorsements right here on your profile. Find a job that has skills that looks like a place you might want to work at, SQL, PHP, and then you copy the skill verbatim, go back to your profile, add the new skill, and then you paste it in. I have the maximum limit of skills, so I can't paste it in, but you just paste it here, and then you'd press add. The most important thing for the LinkedIn algorithm, in my experience, is you line up your skills and endorsements with the job description skills and endorsements, and then you get recommended for those. Now, the Laravel framework. This is kind of, this is my thing. I'm pretty good at Laravel, I'm not half bad. And I want to show you guys kind of who has endorsed me, and I'll keep the names on here because I know them all. But William Logan, he's an incredible software engineer, works at VML where I used to work at, and he was actually my lead at VML Y&R. He endorsed me on Laravel, which is saying something because now I can, when other people reach out to me, I can be like, hey, yeah, I've got an endorsement from my former lead. James Bush, somebody I used to work with at VML Y&R, a phenomenal PHP developer, has 30 plus years of experience. Now, here's the catch. What if you don't have any previous experience? Well, this is my sister. She has 0 software experience. I reached out and bugged her until she endorsed me. She is actually not a student. She also does not have a college degree. My family does not do well with finishing college. But, she's endorsed me because she knows me. She knows my work ethic. It's honestly, given she has no experience and she would endorse me even if I sucked, having your family and friends endorse you is not wrong because they know how dedicated you are. So I've never felt bad about that. If we go down, Caleb Fenner, I used to go to high school with them. Kevin Peer, I actually never even did a project with him. He just asked for advice, and I said, hey, I'll trade you a LinkedIn endorsement for the advice because he was asking me for Laravel advice. Nicholas Shaw, never met him in person, but we used to work remotely together, and he taught me a lot. And then there's Hayden, and there's Brad Boggs. And Hayden is a phenomenal JavaScript developer, worked with him for about 9 months at VML. And then Brad Boggs is, this guy is awesome. He's amazing. He actually became a software engineer in about 6 months with 5 kids. So if you want a number, that's your number. That being said, this guy had a fire under his ass, and I told him, probably to the point where I annoyed him, that dude, you motivate the hell out of me. And that's because Brad just worked his ass off, and he did it for his family. And he had a reason, and he did it quicker than most people are able to. And so he did have that full-time job within 6 months. So how do you know that your skills and endorsements are working, and why do I put so much value on the skills and endorsements? Well, check this. I just found another gig. I just looked up Laravel, Kansas City metropolitan area, which is where I'm from. And I went down to senior full stack developer lifestyle publications. I actually have had them reach out. But here's what is really cool is see all these skills that are blue and then see these ones that are white. Well, if they're blue like that, SQL, full stack development, PHP framework, Stack, Elasticsearch, Laravel, Symfony, events, that means that I have those on my resume. If they are white, then that means I don't. And the easiest way to get them on your resume is just to add the actual skill. And notice that I have Laravel down here as well. And then I have Laravel framework up here, which kind of sucks because I get my endorsements split. So really Laravel should be closer to like 20, 22 endorsements. But I actually add Laravel twice because some resumes have Laravel like this. If I were to remove the lower endorsement, Laravel right here, and I only kept Laravel framework, then this white circle, or this blue circle right here, this blue check mark next to senior full stack developer would actually be white instead of blue. Even though I have Laravel framework, it is not Laravel. And so that's how you know if you have the right skills on your resume, is you go to the jobs skill section. And just a quick heads up, not all jobs will have skills. Many do, many don't. And so as you can see, like I have web development, I don't have web application development. So pretty similar skill names, but one I have, one I don't. And that's just because that's just how the algorithm does it. And recruiters will find you based on who LinkedIn recommends them to reach out to. So that is why that is so important. The last thing I got is we're going to want to go to settings. So once you have all this set up, you feel like you're good on your skill set and you're really, really looking for a job, you can actually go to your settings right here. And what you want to do is you want to go to privacy and then job seeking preferences. And so when you're at job seeking preferences, you want to say, whoop, did not mean to press that. Let's go back there real quick. So settings and privacy and job seeking preferences, and let recruiters know you're open to opportunities. By default, I believe this is no. You want to change this to yes. And once you change this to yes, you have the endorsements and skills that line up with the skills the recruiters are recruiting developers for based on the jobs the recruiters are recruiting developers for. That's a tongue twister. Then they'll reach out to you because you said, hey, yeah, I want to be open to recruiters and their new opportunities, and I have the skills that line up with the job they are looking for. That's how you get in the door, and that is how you get all of these messages from a whole bunch of people. So pretty cool stuff. And just to give you an idea, today, July 12th, that's Logan. June 9th, June 8th, June 8th. That's actually my uncle. June 5th. And, actually, no, that is for one of the Clinko Studio videos is going to be in a newspaper. That's pretty cool. Or I guess online coding newspaper, whatever you want to call those. But June 5th, June 3rd, June 2nd. That's actually a buddy of mine who's also a software engineer from high school. That's James again. He actually reached out and said, hey, there's an opportunity if you want it. That's my buddy Jake Van Winkle. 29th, that's somebody I used to work with, Ashraf, who is amazing at his job. May 27th, 26th, 22nd, 20th, 17th. And that's my buddy Johnny. And 13th, 12th, 11th. So as you can see, it's a pretty regular thing for recruiters to reach out to you. In my experience, it is the best way to get into an interview. So set up your LinkedIn as soon as possible. And as you learn to become a software engineer, build on it, and then get your skills up as soon as possible and ask everybody and their mother to endorse you. And make sure they endorse you for the right skills, because that is what the recruiters are looking for. Are you highly endorsed for the skills that they are looking for, and is your resume bearable to look at? So that will lead us on to our next step. Step number 1, get edumacated. Laravel, Laracasts, great education platform. Education is key. Step 2, make your LinkedIn account, build it up over time as you become a better software engineer. You want to build on your LinkedIn. That is how recruiters will reach out to you and you get in the door for the actual interview. Step 3 is going to be actually building up your actual experience in a way to display it. So once you're in the door, because the recruiters, they don't really code very often. There's some recruiters out there, but those are unicorns, and those are honestly usually the best recruiters, is when they know how to code. But 99% of recruiters out there, they don't know code. They're going to look at your resume, they're going to look in and frankly reach out to whoever LinkedIn recommends to them for the given job they are recruiting for. So step 3 is going to be building up proof that you know how to code. And to do that, we're going to use GitHub. Let's dive in. All right, so this is GitHub, github.com. So here is what I recommend. First, understand why GitHub is important. GitHub lets you work with teams. So if you have a project, and say you have 20, 30 developers on your project, and that project has a feature, I guess a reporting feature, and then it also has a bug in the analytics or something, I don't know. And say you get the feature, so you have to create the reporting feature, and then another developer has to fix the analytics bug. You guys don't want to mess with each other while you're in the process of working on the code base. So what GitHub does is it allows you to work in teams, and so you can work on this feature while your team member works on that bug, and then you can merge it back into the same code base and then just work together. Another way to look at it is it's like a video game, right? And GitHub provides the save point. So in a video game, if you die, like Grand Theft Auto or something, and you don't have a save point, then you would have to start all the way back over. Well, GitHub, and specifically version control, which is what Git allows you to do, it allows you to save your project or application, and it allows you to work with others and combine the two save points so you guys can work together. And so that is what GitHub does. Now, here's what I recommend. I recommend going to Laracast, and after you know the very basics of PHP, like a variable and a function basics, I recommend going and watching this Laravel 6 from scratch. At a glance, what is Laravel? How to install PHP, MySQL, and Composer from scratch. Laravel installer, setting up a basic virtual machine in the Laravel Valet. And then I would say once you get to section 3, 4, 5, or 6, to actually switch over to the give me some version control. And this is going to be 11 episodes, 11 lessons on using Git. Now, Git is a website. GitHub.com is a website, but it's also a terminal tool. And as you can see here, it says Git checkout. And what it's saying is, okay, let's check out a new branch called feature reporting, which is where I got reporting from earlier. And then it allows you to commit or add the changes with the message. What did you just change? And then you can push it. So let's do this. We're going to go and add a new project real quick. So I'm going to go to my repositories, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, new, and then git example, and then we'll go YouTube tutorial, or let's go clean code tutorial, and then we're going to say create repository. And all we're going to do is once this is done creating the repository, we're going to copy this right here. And notice that if I reload the page right now, it's still going to be this. We don't have any code. Clone this. And so I just cloned that new repository I created on github.com. And then I'm going to ignore this. This is a little fancy, but this isn't really the purpose of the tutorial, so I want to speed this part up. Now I'm going to echo out, and then it's going to be hello world to the readme.md, right? And then if I were to get the contents of the readme.md, then we have hello world. That's not the important part. That was a little fancy. I apologize. I'm going to add it, which was just git add. I had an alias. And then I'm going to commit, or git commit a message saying added project, added project documentation. Just like that. Git push to the origin, or to github.com. I'm going to push those changes. And now, if we go back here and we reload the page, the project is up, right? And so I now have added, and I can actually edit this here, hello world. And that is how GitHub works. But the cool part about this is that you can also check out branches and say feature add more documentation. And then I could just do, I don't know, echo goodbye world, and then we're going to add that to the readme.md. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to do git add readme.md, and sorry, I keep using my aliases, just like that. Added more documentation, and then I'm going to push that. Again, that is an alias, but just to speed things along. Now if I reload the page, notice there is now another branch. Added more documentation. It has goodbye world. And so what is the purpose of this? Well, if we open up Sublime, I now have hello world right here. But if I were to knock this to the right, and I were to say, okay, let's add that, let's commit that, and let's push that. Again, you don't need to know what I'm doing right there, outside the fact that we now have 2 versions of our project. And if I click right here, nothing changes. But now if I check out the master branch, that goes away. If I check out the feature, add more documentation, that comes back. So we now have 2 versions of our code base, and this allows us to work with the team. But more than that, and again, that was fancy. That was fancy. Do not let that intimidate you. But more than that, now I have something on my GitHub account. I have real code on my GitHub account. And given its very simple markup, but it's something on my GitHub account. And so what I recommend is learn what a PHP variable and function is, and then go through this Laravel 6 from scratch, and then go through, after you get to like section 3 or 4 or 5, then go to get me some version control. And once you know what Git is, as you go through this tutorial, as you go through this series, create your own GitHub account and start a project and start building out your project like that. And just to give you a perspective of how important this is, I've had one job where I've been flat out turned down for. One job. And it was very early on in my career, and I deserved to be turned down. And the reason I deserved to be turned down was because I didn't know how to use Git. So, by creating a Git account, by just creating Git projects, as you build stuff out, as you learn how to code, you know, it's how you'll learn how to use GitHub and frankly how to work on a team. But more than that, once these fancy recruiters, once they reach out to you, well, you actually got to go in for the interview. And what the actual software engineers who are interviewing you, what they're going to do is they're going to go and look at your GitHub account, and they're going to see, hey, what does this person's code actually look like? And it doesn't have to be anything phenomenal. It doesn't have to be anything great. Just as you learn, add stuff to GitHub. They want to see improvement. They want to see how you break things out and how you build things. And so that's what GitHub does. So Laracast. Step 1, get your education. Get your education, Laravel Laracast. Step 2, build out a LinkedIn. Start building up, visual of who you are so that recruiters will reach out to you. Step 3 is start using GitHub as you learn, add to GitHub, and as you learn, add to your LinkedIn. Step 4. How do you get testimonials and real world experience before you have your first job? This one is one of the, I think the trickiest parts is because LinkedIn, that will go a long way. That will get you in the door. GitHub will prove you know what you're doing once you're in the door. But step 3, this is more of a bonus, to be honest. And it's a big, important bonus. In more ways than one. It gets you more attention on LinkedIn. It shows the people who are looking at your code that, hey, he actually or she actually has real world experience. But how do you get that real world experience without having your first gig? The answer, freelancing. And just know that you're not doing it for the money. You're not freelancing for the money. You want to get 5 stars every time, no matter what, even if you have to refund every single penny each time. You only need 4 or 5 projects, and it just says, hey, I have real world experience. It's just that cherry on top. And once you have, the education through Laracast, once you have the recruiters reaching out through LinkedIn, and once you have proof that you can code, based on your GitHub, the last really big thing others are going to look for when they're reviewing your resume is real world experience. All right, so we're going to focus on Upwork because that's what I did. Again, there's several other freelance opportunities out there, and I'm not even sure I recommend Upwork compared to the others. It's just what I know, what I've done. So as you can see, my hourly rate is currently at 100. That's because I said I don't want to do jobs anymore. I worked a crap load more than 48 hours, so don't believe that. I put 48 hours because, again, this is not about making money. This is about getting very good testimonials and being able to put real world experience on your application. I did earn 5,000 plus. Again, I made less than minimum wage. I'll leave it at that. Quick resume. This is also, you can basically build up your LinkedIn, and at one point I had LinkedIn and Laravel as the same. LinkedIn and Upwork, the About section is the same. But this is my Upwork, and I will actually probably close it after this because your rating goes down if you don't use it. So I'll probably close mine because I don't want that to go down because I haven't used it in a while. I actually just closed out my last contract, but it was like a 2-year-old contract. So that's the only reason my rating's up there. But if you don't use it, it does go down. So once you do get the good opportunities and you have the funnel on LinkedIn and you have the credibility on GitHub and you have educated yourself through Laracast, I would say you might want to close out of Upwork. That's my biggest problem with Upwork is if you don't use it, your rating goes down over time. So here's some of the jobs I've gotten. SEO, crawlable site, artifacts, snapfi.com. Again, testimonials. Yes, I did WordPress. Don't judge me. Develop a WordPress site with the client portal to show them their billing history. Zach was great. They always spell my name wrong, though. And then I proofread a blog because I was a writer before I was a coder. Again, just something to get some testimonials. Did that a few times. If we scroll down here, yes, another WordPress website. Hey, see, that's pretty realistic. $12 an hour for a WordPress site. Enhancements to a WordPress website. Hey, they got my name right. $10 an hour. And yeah, I need a WordPress multi-site developed. Knew how to do multi-site from my day doing lead generation. But here's really the big thing is I worked on this company called SnapFi. This is actually an ICO notifier initial coin offering for cryptocurrency I created, so I just added that there. You can take tests. You can add your employment history. I must have this link to my LinkedIn somehow because I don't remember putting that. But yeah, and so it's just a good way to get some real world experience, some testimonials. I would literally go up here and I would do light shot, screenshot. If you're on Mac, this is a great tool, except it never wants to open the first time. So you got to type it in twice. But other than that, it's a great tool. And I would literally just go, let's see, like that. And then, whatever I want to do to it. And I would just copy this, go to my LinkedIn. And I actually used to feature, I might still have one up here. See y'all. I do not. Let's see. Let's go to my drive. And here's my actual resume, which is a good closer. But I would actually feature my internal HR resumes. Zachary Horton. Yeah, here we go. Some of my my Upwork testimonials in my resume, and I still do. Zach was very quick to complete the assignment. He is very proficient. I will hire him again. Here's SnapFi. Right there. Is an unbelievably talented technical resource. His consultative and flexible approach to requirements is key to his success. That is directly from right here. So that's what I recommend is freelance, Upwork, Freelancer, wherever you want to do it. But just like anything else, getting your first job in freelance is really, really hard. So I recommend that what you do is you simply go over here, you go to whatever your niche is, your category, and then you actually just lowball the offer and find an easy gig, something that's short, quick, to the point, fixed price, and then maybe even go entry level, and then pick somebody with some hires maybe, not always, but usually, and developer needed for quick Amazon SES task, React Node.js developer. Don't know any of those. Actually, I do now, but at the time I didn't. And I would just go right here and find something, whatever it is. And there we go. There's something pretty simple. Let that load, and I would actually submit a proposal. And when you submit a proposal, I would literally do something like this. I'd probably go like 250 on that one. But I would also make sure that it's not any more than a day or two worth of work, and I would undercut it a lot. That's how I got my first gigs freelancing, is I would offer them the deal of a lifetime with the understanding that I am not applying or reaching out about freelance work because I want to freelance. To be honest, freelancing is tough. And then Upwork takes some of your money anyways, and so freelancing is for some people, not for me. But it is a great way to get real world experience. And how you do that, how you get your first freelancing gigs, is you undercut the heck out of the price. And this might frustrate some people, but the fact of the matter is, if you're looking to do something bigger than freelance is a great way. You undercut it because you don't have the experience, and it is the only way to compete with, I guess, a profile similar to what mine looks like now if I were still freelancing. So you have to undercut it, and you have to do it, and don't apply for expert jobs. I accidentally put that filter in. You want to go easy jobs. You want to go 1 to 2 days, and you want to just straight up tell them, hey, I'm new to the platform. I've got some experience. I'm willing to do it really cheap because I want to build up some solid testimonials and recommendations. Normally when I offer this kind of deal, but because I'm trying to build up my freelancing resume, I want to offer you a really good deal just so I can get my foot in the door with Upwork. And so that's how you do it. And they'll have you offer a cover letter. You can upload projects if you have them, or you can focus on projects that are just really simple. And you don't always have to add project files. There's a higher chance you'll get hired, but if you don't have them, obviously do them. The biggest thing is with Upwork, with freelancing, you want the 5 stars. You want the 5 stars, end of story, period. Make sure you get them. So that is how you get a software engineering job. That is, honestly, I'm hoping that is the most proficient overview on the entire internet on how to actually step by step get a job. And I've told you guys this before. I'll tell you again. I don't try to. I want to simplify code itself, but I'm never gonna sell you guys the cheese. I'm never gonna sell you guys the BS. And, maybe I'll have a clickbaity title here and there because, I'm a YouTuber. But I always try to back it up with value, and I'm never going to sit here and say, hey, 3 months, 6 months, a year. The fact of the matter is, the time frame, that's up to you. That's how hard you want to work. That's honestly, that's the fire under your own ass. What's the fire? What's your drive? What's your reason? If you want to put in the 100-hour weeks, 3 months is definitely doable. Absolutely doable. Now, how many can actually put in that 100 hours? I've done it, and I'm not gonna sit here and say you're gonna be efficient at the 60th, 70th, 80th hour as you were at hour 20 or 30. So it's definitely possible to do it in 3 months. 6 months to 9 months if you do the right steps and you actually put in the actual value into your hours and you make each hour count. 6 months is doable as heck. But if we're being honest, it's you're trying to bypass and I'm all for this. You're trying to bypass a $40,000 education, and to do that, like you can't avoid the education. You can avoid the college debt. You can avoid the pressure from, having to pay back money for the rest of your life, for sure. And I support that, and I believe in that, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, and why I just hopefully gave one of the most in-depth overviews on how to actually go from zero to software engineer. That's how you do it, guys. You pick your niche. You pick the best educational-oriented technology in that niche. You create a LinkedIn. You create a GitHub. You use the LinkedIn to get recruiters to notice you. You use the GitHub to build up proof of concept of your abilities, and then you add the cherry on top, which is Upwork or any freelancing platform to get real-world experience. And so, guys, that is how you build a full-on resume and become, not just pretend, not just, throw yourself out there and say, hey, I want to be making $100,000 in 3 months or 6 months. That's how you do it. But ignore the time frame. Just do your best. Do your best and focus in. And in 6 months to a year, you can be making 6 figures a year by doing that and building that up. Is it easy? No. But is it worth it? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Is it worth it? And in my experience, as a kindergarten dropout, as somebody who almost failed out of college algebra and did drop out of college after 28 days, for me, yes, it was worth it. At 22, being the youngest engineer making 6 figures a year, the day I turned 22, that was like, that's crazy. And right there, that's how I did it. And it took me about a year. But I was also trying to figure out and put these pieces together while I did it. And I had 6 months of like SEO and real software engineering experience before that. That kind of gave me I guess a good step in the door. But I didn't, after really going all in into software, after deciding, hey, I want to do software, it took me about a year. And I had to piece this together myself throughout that time. So I'm really, really hoping that this will help you guys, that this will provide, honestly, the opportunity to avoid debt for the rest of your life. Because that's what it did for me, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. And so pick your niche, get educated, create a LinkedIn, get the attention of recruiters, create a GitHub, add the content, add actual code that once you're in the door, once the recruiters get you into the door to interview with those other software developers, they have something to review and say, hey, this person's code is pretty good. And then if you want to add the cherry on top, freelance for a bit and get real world experience. So guys, that's all I got today. Hopefully we were able to simplify how to actually become a software engineer. This is Zachary Horn, Clean Code Studio. Clean code, clean life, simplify. Oh, and smash that like button. Maybe hit me with some GitHub stars, and an endorsement or two on LinkedIn would be appreciated. Simple